Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk Photography. Today I just thought I'd try something different. I'll show you here. I painted my shed a fairly dark gray, and I thought I would try and see if I can take a photo outside using that as a backdrop and using high-speed sync. And it didn't turn out too badly. I'm going to process it, and I'll show you the straight out of camera, and I'll also show you the Photoshop version where I'll go in and I'll do a little bit of dodging and burning and fixing up the background a bit. Of course, one of the things is that this background has stripes going down. I would have liked it to have been just a plain gray, but I mean, you can't have everything. So I'm just going to show you here the setup. So I've got an SB700 here, which I'm using as the background light, and right here I've got the Westcott Rapid Box Octa that I'm using as the one main light, and I'm also using my Sigma 180mm macro lens for the portrait, and I'm using the Nikon D800E as my camera. So it's a kind of a different setup, I guess, for outside, but it seems to work. So it just goes to show you that you can use some pretty simple setups and get a decent portrait. Now, it's not as good as it would be in the studio, but it shows you that using high-speed sync. I shot at 1/3200th of a second, and I've got my main light at full power, and I've got the background light at half power. So it's a different way of doing it. Anyway, I'll show you the results right now. So we'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, so in this first one, basically, it shot up against the shed under my carport. It's midday. I used high-speed sync, and I illuminated the background using a speed light. If I didn't use the speed light for the background would have appeared black because I was shooting at, I think it was 1/3200th of a second. Very little done to this particular one. Basically brought into Lightroom, just a little bit of sharpening, a little bit of exposure fixing, and that was about it. Then I brought it into Photoshop and did very little to it in Photoshop. So it's very close to being straight out of camera. Now I'll take a look at the second one. Now in the second one, I've done a little bit more. I brought it into Photoshop. I sharpened the eyes. I did some color grading using lookup color tables, LUTs, and did a little bit more sharpening. I also used After Effects Pro to highlight the face a little bit more and put a bit of a vignette around the image. It focuses a little bit more on the face. I really enjoy using the lookup color tables. It's a great way to color grade, at least I think it is. There are other ways too. You can use luminosity masks. I do that occasionally too, but for this one I decided to use lookup color tables. And now we'll move on to the third one. I'll talk a little bit about that one. Okay, so let's take a look at this third one. The third one's got quite a bit more processing to it. I used Sean Archer's Portrait Master. Basically what I use the Portrait Master for, I don't use all of the elements of the actions that he has. I just use the action to add a textured background and also to add some lights to the background. You can see that it looks as though there's in addition to the lit background, that there's even more lighting there in the form of sort of spots on on one side and the other. So there's a texture added, lighting added. I used color effects again to highlight the face and to add a little bit of a vignette. And I did some additional color grading, which gives it that kind of brownish look to it. We're kind of away from a headshot here and more into portrait mode. Even the straight out of camera, to me, even though I think some people would consider it to be a headshot, because of the heavy shadow on the one side of the face, that shadow, the contrast, I think, doesn't really work in a professional business headshot, unless you're an actor, and then that's a whole other type of headshot scenario and portrait scenario. But these to me are closer to portraits than they are to headshots because of the contrast and the light and shadow in the face. And of course that's the reason that you have that shadow is because you're only using one light. If I was using more than one light, I could eliminate that shadow, get a little bit more even lighting across the face. And I think that in the business headshot, you want more even lighting. It just, to me, it just looks better for business. You don't want a dramatic headshot for business purposes. At least I don't think so, and that's my opinion. So there you go. So this last one definitely is in the portrait realm a lot more than in the headshot realm, and it shows you that, you know, I personally I think it's a pretty decent self-portrait, and the lighting is pretty good. It's close to Rembrandt lighting, not quite completely Rembrandt lighting, but it's pretty close. And basically it's one light with a speed light and shot outside on a gray shed. So it shows you that you really can get by using minimal equipment. So I hope you enjoyed this, and let's keep talking photography.